What I'm going to talk about right now is the top 5 webcomic genres. Alright, if you're interested in starting a webcomic and you're interested in knowing what the top webcomic genres are, I'm going to go ahead and explain those now. But note, this is my opinion, but I'm not just pulling anything out of my ass right now. I actually looked into these a little bit, and in large part I'm going off of like webcomic platforms. If you just scroll the home page, you know the genres that you see like 90% of the time, so it's an easy way to judge what the top genres are that's out there. But anyways, let's start with the first one. All right, number 5 will honestly have to be a drama. Now, dramas, those extremely serious, emotional type of comics that you'll probably like be turned into a Lifetime movie or something like that. It's teetering on the romance genre, but it's not quite. But it's one of those comics that's just like strong in emotion and whatnot. There are a lot of drama comics, to be quite honest. If you spring through a homepage of Tapastic or Webtoon, you're gonna see a lot of them. Probably the two that you'll see the most is probably number 5 and number 1, but I don't feel like the drama is as big a genre as what number 1 is, but it is a highly successful one. Number 4 would honestly be horror. Horror comics are huge. Personally, I'm not into them. I should say that. I read a couple, but like excessive gore and I don't know, looking at it in drawing format, especially if somebody's artwork is extremely realistic, it actually gets to me after a while. I don't need to see too much of that. What a hypocrite I am being a Mortal Kombat fan as much as I am, but still, something about reading horror comics just bothers me. And that and a whole bunch of I'm intentionally doing stuff to try and scare you or try to freak you out, I'm not a fan of that. But there are a lot of like extremely amazing looking artwork in horror comics, and they're a really successful webcomic genre as well if you can pull off making one. Number 3 would have to be comedy. This shouldn't be a shock. The vast majority of webcomics that you see are in some way, shape, or form comedy. Like there's so many. God, I'm not even gonna sit here and start naming some of my favorite comedies. There's so much out there. You can scroll through some of the webcomics that I follow. There's so many freaking comedies out there. I even have comedy in my own comic, in a sense, or one of them. Just everybody wants to laugh. Even comic books in general, if you look in the newspaper, like they're still called the funnies. It's like comedy and webcomics is never going to go anywhere. Comedy and comics in general is never going to go anywhere. So yeah, that one should be easy to figure out. And it's strikingly similar to number 2 on the list, which would be slice of life comics. Now, for somebody that's confused and don't know what a slice of life comic is, it's basically a comic that's just about everyday stuff. It's about anything, and it can be done anywhere in any environment. There are slice of life comics in cafes, schools, stores. Some people have comics that literally like it's a slice of life comic that's in a room. That's the majority of the comic. It's like every single update is in one room. The only setting in the comic is one room. And you can pull that off though. Stuff like slice of life and comedy, you can get away with doing stuff like not really having an important setting or whatnot. Not saying that you don't need those, but you can sort of get away with not having it in those genres. And number 1, this should be a shock to absolutely nobody who actually makes webcomics or is into them and scrolls past like Webtoon to Tapas. Romance. Romance comics are everywhere. If I was to look at my phone, which I kind of can't because I'm staring at it right now, but just on Webtoons alone, I think I scrolled through the other day when I was trying to check up on my comic on Webtoons, and I think it's like, I don't even know the number. I just know the vast majority of the comics I saw on the homepage were romance comics. And then when I go to Tapas, even the big billboards that they have across the top of the page is mostly what the heck is going on? It's mostly romance. Just people love, or people love the lack of finding love, I guess. That is a big one. If you're thinking about starting a webcomic and you're big into like romance novels or romance manga or anything like that, and you're going to start one of your own, you're probably, if you have a really good story and a really solid story, you'll probably find really decent success, because there's a lot of people that are clamoring for and read romance comics. It amazes me how big that genre is, because the people that I know that are into webcomics, none of them read them, but I don't know, it's a really good one. Now, my ranking for these genres may be out of order, but I do believe that hands down these are the top 5 webcomic genres. Honorable mentions is to stuff like sci-fi or like action or anything like that, fantasy, but those are, in my opinion, below the 5 that I just named. If you go to the front page of any webcomic posting or anything like that, you're gonna see the genres that I just named. Now, nugget of advice for anybody that's about to start your own webcomic: if you're struggling trying to find a genre that fits your comic, or you're trying to pigeonhole your comic into a specific genre, don't do that. A great way to make your comic stand out is to combine them in some ways. Afro Brainbuster, for example, is a combination of action, sports, science fiction, and a lot of dumb comedy that I think only I find funny. But just combining webcomic genres will make it easier for your comic to stand out, especially if you can combine 2 really odd genres. Like, I don't know, I don't see many, like if you can combine sports and horror, like I've never seen that ever in life. See, I just gave somebody an idea. If you get successful, give me a shout out. Yeah, there are tons of different ways. Like, I'm trying to think of weird ways to combine a genre. I was going to say science fiction and romance, but of course there has to be one of those where there's so many romance comics. But combining genres is a great way to sort of get your comic to stand out. And also, if you're interested in starting a webcomic with a particular genre and I didn't name it as one of the top genres, who cares? There's still a fan base for every webcomic genre out there, and a loyal fan base as well. It's like millions of webcomic readers on the planet. You're just trying to tap into the ones that are interested in what you do. So don't let it discourage you if the genre you're trying to get into ain't at the top. That's my little rant for today. If that was a rant, those are some of the top webcomic genres. I hope that was helpful or informative to somebody. I'll probably be vlogging later on this week, and I have a couple of paintings and stuff to upload. But in any event, everybody, y'all have a good one, and I'm out.